देवाशीष भी नहीं आया है।
हाँ, देवाशीष आते हैं कभी कभी, मैक्सिमम टाइम आते हैं यार. So let's start with the practice of gratitude. Yeah. Let's express our gratefulness to the Mother Universe and to everyone that we are grateful for. Be grateful for the fact that we can breathe. Be grateful for that we have a home to stay. Be grateful for that we have food to eat. Be grateful for that we have friends where we can express ourselves. Be grateful for each and everything that is there with us. Be grateful for ourselves. To be kind and compassionate to us. To accept things as they are. To accept others as they are. And to thank the power, supreme power, for giving us what we have. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A big thank you to everything. We now just center ourselves before the session. Relax. Take 2 deep breaths. Relax our entire body. Quieten our mind. Accept things as they are. Relax the top of our head, our ears. Our face. Feel the sensations on the face. Relax our forehead, the top of our eyebrows, our cheeks, muscles around our jaws, eyes. And let the relaxation flow to our chest. Our hands. Wiggle our fingers a bit. And let the relaxation flow to the stomach and abdomen. Drop your waist, relax your waist. Relax your hips, your thighs, your knees. Relax your calf muscles and shin bone. And let the relaxation flow to your ankles and toes. Feel the sensations in your body. Have gratitude for every part of your body. Immense gratefulness. Relax the top of our shoulders behind our head and let the relaxation flow to the top of the hips, relaxing the muscles around the spine. Once again, be immensely grateful for each part of our body, for ourselves. Be compassionate to ourselves. Love ourselves as we are. Relax. The deep parts of our body, the core of our body, every cell of our body to be relaxed. I invite you to imagine relaxation flowing to every cell of our body. Imagine relaxation to be a white light, tiny particles of white light. That is touching each cell of our body and moving everywhere. Feel your body touching any surface and have gratitude that you can feel the touch. Wonderful. Very softly open your eyes and allow lights to come in. Let the sense of gratefulness touch us. Let the sense of love fill us. Let the sense of fulfillment be all around us. Thank you. Thank you so much. And before we move into the subject of today, a subject which is fairly, in fact, Deepak ji and me, we were discussing just at the beginning of the session that what has this last 2 years and the journey of life in the last 2 years, how it has affected us. And one of the researches that's revealing that what the pandemic and other issues have created in our lives or in the lives of our families or friends. It might not have touched us directly, but it would have touched our friends and family members And we being social animals, we cannot insulate ourselves from the effect of that, right? So insulation is not possible. And when we cannot insulate, we have the effect of that also. We somehow are also suffering in the sense getting affected. Today's topic was acceptance. Why acceptance is a topic? Because whether it is depression, whether it is anger, whether it is uh, isolation, whether it is a feeling of loneliness, it is all because it is in our mind, it is not outside. Pain, body aches, migraine, uh, breathing problems. Deepak ji was mentioning a pandemic called sleeplessness, disturbance in sleep. Now, disturbance in sleep is not only sleeplessness, but less sleep. Those who used to sleep at 10 might be sleeping at 12, getting up early. So there are a lot of things which are happening. And so acceptance. What is acceptance? Yesterday, many of us were saying that our acceptance levels have increased. Now, the same thing needs to happen to our family members. When I look into my family members or family members of others, I hear words like not not getting the energy, not feeling well. However, this opening up has again brought in a lot of joy and happiness in all of us. Let's discuss today, and there might not be any solution, but there might be an understanding of what acceptance is and how acceptance can help, right? So what acceptance means to you, and I would request all of you, it's a small group of 7, so to discuss this, what acceptance means to you, why is acceptance important, and how acceptance can help, and how we can accept is not an accept is a verb, it is very active, right? It's a very active thing. So when we say accept, it's a verb, and when it is a verb, we have to do something. So acceptance is not just uh, keeping quiet or being inactive, it is doing something. So we can discuss that. So what is acceptance to you? You can grab your cup of tea and we can discuss this also. I just grabbed my cup of tea. So Sonali, Sanjay ji, good morning, welcome. Sonali, welcome. Kakuli madam, Devashish.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome all of you.
Good morning, sir.
So what is acceptance to you?
Self-confidence, increasing your
Acceptance is
self-confidence.
self-confidence. Yes, increasing your self-confidence, okay.
And
Anything else? Yes, Pamela.
Acceptance is the situation where we are into. Right?
Acceptance is the situation, accepting the situation where we are into. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And how do we do it? Because so that is the question that I wanted to get answered today.
practicing let go.
Practicing let go. Yes, very good. Very good. Fantastic.
So there is a difference between acceptance and surrender, right? So we should understand that surrendering
Absolutely.
is like, surrendering is, kind of expressing the helplessness not to pursue certain things. Whereas acceptance is consciously, okay, accepting a situation because we have no control over it and hence move on. That is probably the philosophy behind this statement, Partha.
Very well said. I think that's summarized very well. That difference between acceptance, it's not helplessness, it is not inactiveness, it is activeness. Actively realizing that this is the reality and we have no control on that, and to accept it. So a very, very important aspect which Debashish, Pamela, Sonali just brought in was that acceptance is something wherein it is not changing the outside, it is understanding that this is reality and probably changing ourselves from inside. So it is rather looking inside and accepting it. And as he rightly mentioned, also acceptance has nothing to do with happiness. It is not that if we accept it, we will be happy. It is just that acceptance will give us more space to work on it. Right? And the question of acceptance comes when there is a pain, or when there is a hurt, or there is a loss, or there is a grief. Right? So great, thank you. I think that's great. So anyone else who would like to share their thoughts on acceptance? Is there any experience that you have on acceptance? Is there any message that you want to give to us regarding acceptance? Anyone? Sanjay ji, Sonali?
Yes, I will go ahead.
Yeah.
So this acceptance to me, it is coming, as Devashish ji said, that we don't have control over the situation. So in that situation now, how we train our mind to deal with that situation. Also, we are seeing in any situation, there is a situation and the person, and always it is coming that it's the situation, not the person. So we should not blame the person, but that's situation, because that actually hurts the person more. Situation keep on coming. And so one point was coming, that which we said earlier, that conductance and resistance, we need to have that acceptance. And also, like last time we said, no, that pause, it will take some time, give that space, because some of the things is because of that written the software, it immediately the reaction happens, and then afterwards we feel about it. And so I think this is the way I am getting. So seeing every situation and the people more than situation is that I am okay, you are okay, and let's deal with the situation. And then we go on. So training the mind is what comes to my mind, so that we let go the situation in some situation and go on, because it's not in your control. Yes. Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I want to share an experience of my friend. We lost her just 8 to 10 days before. 8 days. What happened? उसकी छोटे लड़के का साल पहले डिवोर्स हुआ था, और धारणा एक ऐसी अपनी जिंदगी बर्बाद करती है। इसका एक अच्छा नहीं कहना चाहिए, लेकिन एक एक्सपीरियंस और एग्जांपल हमारे सामने आ गया। वो दोनों ही कपल, ये कपल ने, मतलब उसके हस्बैंड और उसने ऐसा ले लिया कि समाज में हमारी नाक कट गई। मेरे छोटे लड़के का डिवोर्स हो गया, अभी ऐसे कैसे हुआ? ये साल भर वो अपने से रखती रही। महीने पहले उसको हार्ट अटैक हुआ, और we lost her 8 days before. So I'm talking about the beliefs we keep with us. We have to study over it. We have to train our mind. जैसे कि संजय जी अभी बोले, ट्रेनिंग ऑफ द माइंड इज वेरी मच रिक्वायर्ड। अगर ये धारणाएं उसकी गलत धारणाएं थी, उसने करेक्ट की होती, तो शायद हमारी ये फ्रेंड बच जाती। तो फिर धारणाओं पे काम करना बहुत जरूरी है, ऐसा मेरा मानना है। कौन सी भी धारणा हो, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैंने बताया अभी कोरोना का इफेक्ट अभी हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे सर, फिर उसकी भी गलत धारणाएं हमारे दिमाग में बहुत सारी पहुंच गई है, तो उसके ऊपर भी हमें काम करना चाहिए।
That is changing yourself according to the situation.
Right.
Bilkul. And as Devashish very, very nicely said, that acceptance is not helplessness. There are two different things. Helplessness, when it is an inactivity, it is passivity. but acceptance is activity. Acceptance is very much it's a verb, and it is moving. It has to do something. It is something to do with change. Now, what to change? Either we change outside or we change inside. It is changing of inside. One more very, very right.
Outside तो हम बदल नहीं सकते.
नहीं सकते हैं, बिल्कुल.
Those are beyond our control.
बिल्कुल. Sanjay ji is here. So Sanjay ji, in NLP, we have, so for everyone in neurolinguistic programming, we have beliefs of excellence. Now, what are beliefs? Beliefs are non-responsive to reality, right? They are not facts. We treat them as truth. So there are some beliefs of excellence. One of the beliefs of excellence, which really helps me in accepting, is Sanjay ji, if you remember, there is no failure, there is only feedback. Right? There is no failure.
Yes, yes, yes.
There is only feedback.
Yeah.
So when we accept something as a failure, there is a change of, there is some thoughts which come in, and if we take that failure as a feedback, whatever, it's a feedback. The action, the reaction is different. Martin Seligman says one of the main concerns of humankind, a lot of human beings, us, is that we take one situation and then generalize it. We take one example and then we generalize. Example, if there is something, I will give an example. One of my friends, he mentioned this to me. So he has a house, right? He stays in a house which is quite old. So one day, the wall of the boundary collapsed, and his mother immediately started saying, this is the beginning of the destruction in our family. Collapse. Now, what has the collapsing of the wall got to do with the destruction of the family? So when we generalize a particular experience and spread it, there also we cannot accept things. That is a bigger case which I'm saying now. Now what Pamela said, letting go. It's very important. However, I think it is painful also, letting go. But the acceptance, the pain generally leads to acceptance. The pain, we have to go through pain, everything. And one more thing which I would like to say, this has been told by everyone, that we cannot expect this world to be a very comfortable place to stay in. It was never a comfortable place to stay in, right? So I think that thought process also might help.
So yeah, Partho, may I? Okay, so a couple of things come to my mind. Firstly, it's to do with the purpose of life also. Like we discussed about the purpose. If the purpose is to derive happiness, because everybody would unknowingly or unknowingly are actually having a purpose of getting into a happy state, right? And as I said, there are certain things in control, certain things not in control. So the things not in control is again a relative statement. There are statements that, nothing is impossible, right? If I see an uphill task in front of me and I accept that this is not reachable, right? So it's a relative thing. So you got to assess your skill, your capability, etc., to accept the fact. There is another aspect which is related, is like there is something called, I think it's to do with personal acceptance, not a social acceptance. And as an individual, we tend to accept certain things which is socially wrong, right, at times. Now, and there are acceptance of things which are socially right too. For instance, let me talk about the freedom fighters, right? Let's talk about the freedom movement. So it was a social movement, right? If we had for years accepted the gulami of the Britishers, okay, we would have still been under the British Raj, right? Now, talk about an individual freedom fighter. What is his motivation to accept, okay, or not accept, right? So the fact that he has not accepted this rule, right? And he had this belief that we can win our freedom. That was his single most purpose of life, which drove him to the maybe a noose. You know, he died. He accepted death to being in the clutches of a foreign rule, right? So there is an element of, you know, what is impossible to reach, what is within control. There are all self-defined. Some people can be at home at peace, stating that, okay, I mean, the British people are exploiting us. That's the way we are. I mean, our life is like that. Let us accept it and move on, right? I mean, so I will till my farm and give this much of, you know, tax to the British government and be and be happy myself, right? But so it is in pursuit of happiness that individuals define their levels of you know, control and not control. And there is a element of social versus personal acceptance, personal happiness, where we have to define our goal continuously. This process is continuous. What purpose we are moving with, and suppose we go into an agitated state at any moment, the anger, etc., right? We have to accept that state as of now. But what I am coming to is, every time acceptance is associated with what then? What then? If I am accepting, what next? Right? Probably, I mean, I hope I've been able to convey my thoughts.
Yes, Devashish and Sonali, before I come to you, in fact, Devashish, it's a very important part, relativity, acceptance. So there are a lot of theories. I'm not getting into the theories because I thought practical experiences can help us in understanding acceptance. So there is something called acceptance and commitment theory. An acceptance and commitment theory is related to something called RFT, relational frame theory. What is relational frame theory? Relational frame theory states that because we can relate one things to other, right, and this has given birth to language and cognition, the cognitive part, language and cognition. I'll give an example. So, say for example, if we relate the breaking of the wall to destruction of the family, right, there is something such a change in the mind. If we cut off the relationship and say that it is a particular incident, nothing to do with the destruction of family, then we have a certain frame of mind. So relating things are a very, very important things when we understand what acceptance is. They are very important, right? And I would share with you, after going to Sonali, I will share with you a theory which we had shared earlier also, the process of acceptance. And in the process of acceptance, to understand the emotions, the feelings and thoughts and going through it, right? That is very important. And there is where mindfulness comes to. Say, for example, when we say understand the sensations on your face or in your body, that is where being awareness comes to. Understanding where we are standing now and how this particular situation can affect us, that is where mindfulness comes to, right? We will come back to it after going back to, you know, listening to Sonali. Yes, Sonali, please. Sorry for holding you back for that long. Yeah, please.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for giving this. I realize this. It is a confession of the acceptance. So what my husband accepts, जब अभी जो धारणा चल रही थी इसके बाद हम लोग कर रहे थे, तो वहां कि एक कपल का डिवोर्स हो गया और फिर उनकी फैमिली में किस तरीके से सारी चीजें हो गई. सो हमारी थॉट प्रोसेस बहुत सारी चीजें हमारी धारणाओं के ऊपर होती है, राइट? सो ऐसा ही जब मेरे पति ने मुझे सपोर्ट किया टू गेट आउट एंड अर्न सम मनी, तो सेम चीज यहाँ भी हो रही थी हमारे घर में. इज इट गुड? और लोग उन्हें काफी तरीके से सता रहे थे, राइट? कि जैसे कि आप बीवी के भरोसे बैठ के खाता है. इवन घर के लोग भी ये सारी चीजें बोलते थे, बट ही एक्सेप्टेड कि ऐसा तो नहीं है कि मैं तेरे भरोसे बैठ के खा रहा हूँ, लोग वो सोच रहे तो सोचने दे, उनकी सोच को तो मैं बदल नहीं सकता। तू काम कर रही है, आई अप्रिशिएट दैट। जो मैं नहीं कर पाता वो आप कर पाती हो, तो जस्ट गो अहेड, डोंट केयर अबाउट एनीथिंग वट एवर द पीपल आर सेइंग। वहां उन्होंने मेरा बहुत अच्छे तरीके से साथ दिया। जब लोग उन्हें ऐसा कुछ बोलते थे तो मुझे बहुत ज्यादा I get very much angry for the people those who were saying like this. लेकिन उन्होंने मुझे सिखाया कोई जरूरत नहीं है, वो उनकी सोच है, उन्हें सोचने दो, वो जो भी सोच रहे हैं। डोंट उसके पीछे तुम अपने करियर में बर्बाद करो। मैं आपको सपोर्ट कर रहा हूं ना, यू जस्ट गो अहेड, यू जस्ट गो अहेड। और फिर उस समय ऐसा था कि पढ़ने के लिए मुझे 4-4, 5-5 दिन पूना या मुंबई जहां भी सेशंस होते थे या जो भी ट्रेनिंग सेशंस होते थे वहां मुझे जाना होता था। सो ही लेट मी गो वेयरएवर आई वांट टू। बेटी को मैं देख लूंगा, आप कर सकती हो, यू जस्ट गो अहेड एंड कंप्लीट योर स्टडीज। और इस तरीके से उन्होंने मुझे पूरी स्टडीज करवाई। और जब जब करियर में भी मुझे कभी भी ऐसा लगता है कि अभी मैं क्या करूं, ही इज माई सोल गाइड। और जब मुझे फिर से मेरे जीवन में मेरी बेटी को उसकी पढ़ाई में जहां भी रहती थी चंद्रपुर में, वहां उस लेवल की मुझे नहीं महसूस होती थी। आई ऑलवेज आस्क्ड हिम, शुड आई टेक हर टू नागपुर टू फॉर हर बेटरमेंट। उस समय भी उन्होंने वही कहा, मैं मेरा काम यहाँ बैठ के करता हूँ, आप आपके मम्मी के यहाँ चले जाओ उसे लेकर के। एंड ही अलाउज मी, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ हिज डिसीजन तब भी लोग बोलते थे, अरे आपकी बेटी घर में आके रहेगी, क्यों, क्या हुआ? मेरे इन लॉज को भी वो तकलीफ हुई, मेरे पेरेंट्स को भी वो तकलीफ हुई, लेकिन उन्होंने फिर से मुझे वही बताया, नो नीड टू वरी अबाउट द पीपल। सो पहले किसी ना किसी को तो रास्ता बनाना होता है, फिर लोग पीपल विल फॉलो यू, व्हाई यू शुड फॉलो द पीपल। दैट वाज हिज थॉट प्रोसेस। एंड मेरे सक्सेस का पूरा क्रेडिट मेरे हस्बैंड को ही जाता है। इवन टुडे लोगों को ऐसा ही लगता है कि he is not doing anything and only Sonali is doing everything. However, it is not like that. So उनका acceptance ही था कि you go ahead, I am always with you. और वो acceptance के कारण जो situation है उसमें हमें कुछ ना कुछ तो नई चीजें लानी है। We have to upgrade ourselves, we have to upgrade our lifestyle. So लोगों की धारणाओं से हमारा घर नहीं चलेगा। हम जो भी काम करेंगे उसी से ही हमारा घर चलेगा और उसी से ही हमारा करियर बिल्ड होगा। हमें जो चाहिए वो हम हासिल कर सकते हैं। लोगों की तरफ बिल्कुल भी आप ध्यान मत दो। ये बोलते हुए आई कंप्लीटेड माय करियर। एंड जब मैं अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ मिलती हूँ जिन्होंने मेरे ही तरीके से करियर स्टार्ट किया था, तो कुछ जब जब उनके पति को जरूरत थी तब तब उन्होंने उन्हें काम करने दिया। जब उनकी जरूरत खत्म हो गई, नाउ दे बिकम हाउसवाइफ। यहाँ मेरे साथ ऐसा नहीं हुआ। सो आई एम वेरी ग्लैड आई गॉट अ हस्बैंड लाइक अभय। और फिर बाद में दे वर हेल्पिंग देयर हस्बैंड, लेकिन उनकी इंडिविजुअलिटी तो खत्म हो गई और यहाँ मुझे अपनी इंडिविजुअलिटी मिली है। सो दैट इज द ग्रेट पार्ट। जब एक्सेप्टेंस के साथ आपका प्रोग्रेस होता है और आपको आपके घर से ये सारी चीजें मिलती है, दैट इज रियली रियली ग्रेटफुल। एंड आई एम वेरी हैप्पी टू शेयर ऑल दिस थिंग्स विद यू। So this is what I want to share my experience about this acceptance.
Great. I think this is a great experience, Sonali, and we could understand the emotions that were flowing. And kudos to you and your husband. And we could, I personally could feel it.
Right.
And I was, thank you so much, Sonali, for sharing.
Yeah.
There is one more belief of excellence in that these are coming through, and now I can relate how strong these are. If one person can do it, any person can do it. This is another belief of excellence, which is there in neuro-linguistic programming or NLP. Sanjay ji, right? We've gone through this. If one person can do it, any person can do it. This is another belief of excellence, which is there. And it works out. And it just came to my mind now, and I thought of sharing it. Fantastic, Sonali. So again, if you see,
सॉरी ये एक कहावत है, दुनिया में सबसे बड़ा रोग क्या कहेंगे लोग, दुनिया में सबसे बड़ा रोग क्या कहेंगे लोग? बिल्कुल सोनाली जी ने बिल्कुल सुनी नहीं, अपनी सुनी और शी गॉट सक्सेस। दैट इज द थिंग। फैंटास्टिक, फैंटास्टिक। आई रियली एडमायर।
एब्सोल्युटली। दीपक जी, वो गाना याद आ रहा है, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे,
कुछ तो
लोगों का
लोगों का काम है
काम है
कहना,
कहना।
काम है कहना।
राइट।
और मेरा भाई मुझे एक बोलता था दूसरा गाना, चाहे कोई खुश हो चाहे गालियां हजार दो, मस्त रामा बन के जिंदगी के दिन गुजार दो, ये भी एक गाना मुझे हमेशा वो
Yes. So if you see, there is a relation, right? We relate to other people, we relate to so many things. And this relation, a very, very good example is being given. Uh, Example is being given. You know, human beings, they relate. Why I'm sharing this is very important, very small, but very important. So there is a difference between human beings and animals. Human beings, the general tendency is to relate, right? Whether irrespective of everything, they relate, and this is where they differ from other animals. One example is that, say you say cookies, or you ring a bell. You say you have a pet dog, right? Or a dog. This is Pavlov also did this experiment. There were other experiments which happened. So you ring the bell and you give a biscuit to the dog, right? You do it for 10 days, and whenever you will ring the bell, and if you do not give the biscuit to the dog will salivate, thinking that the biscuit is being given to them. You reverse it now. You give the biscuit and then ring the bell, right? You give the biscuit and then ring the bell. And after 10 days, you give the biscuit and don't ring the bell. There will be no effect on the dog. One situation. For human beings, just see how it works. You say cookies and give a cookies to a human being, a person or a child. You do it for 10 days and you say cookies, the child will come running to you. You reverse the situation. You give the biscuit and then say cookies. Reverse. You do it for 10 days. So in the case of the animal, it did not come, right? Nothing happened to him. But in the case of human beings, the moment you say cookies, the child or the human being will relate their word cookies with the giving of cookies. So in acceptance also, in the situation also, we relate to things. That's the way beautifully now Sonali mentioned, the way Devashish mentioned. Relating. So when we talk of freedom fighters, what is that which comes to our mind? Freedom fighter means 1947, independence war, fighting with the British, coming through, right? Now if someone says hame chahiye azadi, this azadi is taken, interpreted in a different way. So this is how we relate, and this relationship, this relational framework makes the situation different in the case of human beings. And if we just think of this and stay where we are, pause, increase the space, understand the feelings which we have, right? Acceptance might be a little more easier for us. Acceptance might be a little easier for us, right? I will share with you a theory which I had done earlier also probably. So this is the screen. If you see, this is how the acceptance moves, and it is perfectly okay not to feel good. It's perfectly feel okay. We cannot expect someone. In fact, Deepak ji and we were discussing that there were so many families who have lost their relatives, their family members during this pandemic, and we lost. So every time there is a grief, we say, "Oh wow, that's bad news. This can't be true. This cannot be happening." There might be anger, aggression. Then we accept things as they are, we keep quiet, and then we bargain. Okay, we cannot change the things, let us accept as it is, let us accept the reality and see what best we can do it. and isolating that particular part with the rest of the life and let the life move in. And that is what makes acceptance. And if you see here, it said, well, it could be worse. We will just have to make the best of this. And this is starting to look like a blessing in disguise. I'm glad this happened. Right? Valid reasoning. It might not be valid sometimes. I sometimes differ with this. That sometimes the reasoning that we made might not be valid. It might be valid to me, it might not be valid to others. What Sonali just said, it was valid to them, it was not valid to others. Good. Any more thoughts on acceptance? And how do we increase acceptance? Now that we have understood what acceptance is, how do we increase our acceptance with what is going around in life? Any thoughts on that?
Like increasing knowledge on yourself, about yourself rather.
Self-awareness, yes.
Right.
Certainly,
Then,
certainly.
Then again, thinking about the situation more deeply, trying to analyze the situation.
Pause and then look into it.
Right.
Right. Instead of going immediately jumping into conclusion that the collapsing of the wall means destruction of the family. So analyze why this is an old wall. This was not so strong and it has rained or whatever has happened. Even if it is not rained, it was not very powerful and it has collapsed, and I accept it, and it has to be repaired. If this is the thought, then the bigger thought of destruction of the family does not come. Where we don't relate. Very nice. Self-awareness. Fantastic, Pamela. I think that's that's deep. And emotional intelligence, the base of emotional intelligence stands on self-awareness. Right. Thank you so much. Anyone, any thoughts that comes? How to increase awareness, how to be more in control. Devashish, are you saying something? But you are on mute.
No, Partho, I was not really suggesting how to, but the question is on, when we, the concept of fight or flee, right? So when we get into a situation, right, in a very, let us say, non-aggressive scenario where we are in a very peaceful state of things, okay, the way we evaluate uh, the situation may be very different from a situation where there is a crisis, right? How to deal with them in these two different scenarios, right? Yesterday, I was reading about the boys and girls in Ukraine, right? In a very peaceful situation, those people were very happy becoming doctors of the future, no threat, right? They have accepted that way of life. Today, when the situation is so much of aggression, right? I heard that they were in spite of the their parents or whoever advising not to move out. A bunch of people took a 30 seater bus and went to the Polish border, right, to request for deporting on the other side. Right? So if they had accepted the situation, they stayed back where they are. There is a big threat to their lives. Right? So it is what I mean is that it is very essential that we get to understand our situation, right? And there is a relation there also, the social thing which I told you earlier, that there are certain things happening very good socially when few people, when you can't accept on your own, then probably you need a like-minded group of people who can help you to accept that. Probably that is one of the many solutions.
Absolutely. Devashish, can I relate this to yesterday's when you raised the point, it really synced with me what we need to do. So particular situation where earlier in the morning sessions, I know a lot of people used to come. Now, there are few people, and what we need to do. So when you gave me this thought, when you shared this idea with me, it synced with me. It synced very deeply with me. And I accepted your words. And when I thought about it, then, a lot of ways came to my front of mind. There were a lot of avenues which opened up. So I think what you were saying is very, very important, and what Pamela and everyone shared, Deepak ji and Sonali, everyone shared is uh, not accepting a particular situation means it's like a rock. It's like a rock. You get stuck. You just get stuck. And because when you get stuck, when there is a closed room and you cannot get out, what do? You bang the door. Right? Instead of looking where there is a window outside, you bang the door. Aggression. And then after you bang the door, you then, when you understand that there is no one around, then you skip silent. Someone probably cries. I'm just trying to picturize this. And when someone cries, then he gets up, and then his thinking power comes back, and then he looks for an avenue to go out. Right? So absolutely, you are absolutely right. And when you were speaking, I was just imagining that coming back to India safely was their point, their thought of that point. Now probably what is going through their parents' mind and their minds: how do I go back? How do I study? How do I become a doctor? Someone had completed 2 years, someone has completed 3 years, another year left. They just thought that they will become doctors, Dr. X, and come back to India. They have not come back. So another journey for them, thinking journey for them starts. So how they will accept, how will their family members stand next to them? Because that's very important. The social aspect is important. When they get in touch with their friends, like-minded people, and they talk about it, how will they get power? That's very important. Thank you for that, Devashish.
So another thing, I mean, which is relational is that it was taught in my erstwhile company, right? I took that phrase very in different context, was that you accept, but then you continuously reinvent yourself, right? Probably that will leave the aftertaste of, what you left behind, right? There could have been a situation where you were very unhappy and things didn't go the way you wanted it, right? But you saw that it was well out of your control, so you accept it. But the question of move on could be that you continuously reinvent yourself, right? To see that in future, if similar situation arises, it will be very natural, and you just about naturally accept it and move on, not even realizing that you have accepted it. So we should come to some state like that, right? Yeah.
Sometimes I feel we have to take a risk, little bit of calculated risk, and that risk, that courage, सिचुएशन से पार होने के लिए मदद कर सकती है. अभी बस पुलिस इसके ऊपर ले गए ना वो बॉर्डर पे, तो दे हैव टेकन द कैलकुलेटेड रिस्क. आई थिंक सो दे गॉट सक्सेस. ऑफ कोर्स इट बार बार तो ऐसे नहीं होता, लेकिन कभी तो बार ये ऐसी रिस्क उठानी पड़ती है. सिचुएशन बदल सकती है, मतलब पॉजिटिवली बदल सकती है.
Hope brings light. Yeah. So I will just share with you another screen, and we will not discuss, but what Devashish and Deepak ji just now said, I'll just show it to you. So if you see, I don't want to go through the entire cycle. It is the same cycle, but if you see, there are two wheels, right? There are two wheels which are there. One says losses, one says new ways. So these are a loss and a new way. So every time there is a loss, every time there is a challenge, every time there is a grief, every time there is a new situation, it also gives rise to new ways. It also gives rise to inventions. It also gives rise to discoveries. So one of the ways, one Epictetus, if I spell it correctly, he was a Stoic philosopher. He said that every time there is a challenge, there has to be some innovation. Every time there is a loss, there is a new invention. Every time there is a grief, there is a discovery. So when we lose our dear and dear ones, when there is a divorce, when there is a separation, right? The staying togetherness, the feeling of staying togetherness when it is there, the thought of impermanence, that nothing is permanent, a very, very strong thought of philosophy, of mindfulness, of researches, of stoicism, right? Of minimalists, that nothing is impermanent. I think the theory of impermanence, that nothing is permanent, that gives really rise to a lot of courage. It gave a lot of courage to me, that nothing is permanent. And another phrase which I remember, this will also pass. This will also pass. So there is a storm, and the monk in the monastery says, this will pass. And the storm passes away. Everyone gets back to life. After some time, there is another storm, a bigger storm. And the monk in the monastery says, this will pass away. And everyone comes back to new life, but a newer thing. There are some parts broken. There are some things, they build it up and come again. Yes, Devashish.
No, so exactly on the point of innovation, what you said, that is where my phrase fits in, right? Continuously reinvent yourself. So if this continuous process is there, I mean, it is like, forget and forgive theory, right? And then moving on means reinvent yourself, be innovative, and look for lessons from the solution, lessons from the experience, right? So that you can combat that builds the resilience in you, right?
Absolutely.
For combating any future threats, and the first stage of accepting any threat at any point of time, physical, mental, is to accept. Try and accept it. We may not accept it, we may struggle to accept it, but acceptance is a sum total of life experience, right? So basically it is about imbibing certain life experiences, and we do. And another thing probably is to admit mistakes, right? There are moments when we have gone wrong, and we realize it later on that probably if I had done this, things would have been much better, right? And one of this, if I had done this, would be that if I had accepted the situation, okay, and taken it on the face value, then probably it would have been much simpler. And that is why Parthod and others, like basically the discussion that we are having today on acceptance, I think none of the generations in the past would have had it. For the simple reason, I mean, in such a big social gathering or whatever, for the simple reason that life is becoming complex day by day. I mean, the element of relationship related issues were much simple earlier on, between son and father, father and mother, and mother and child, or the grandparents. So we saw in a joint family, we saw a, a huge amount of acceptance from the junior people. But there was an authoritative guy who was heading the family, who said, "You have to accept my rule of the game." And things went on very peacefully because people accepted the fact that he's the authority. Whether he says right or wrong, we will accept. Today, we have learned to challenge every damn thing because we are all individual human beings. We have our own rights. In our rights, we think we know this is good or bad. So when the question of judgmentalism comes, then we have to be truly judgmental from the learnings of the experiences in life that probably I faltered here. So that is a continuous change, and that is the reinvention that we should do with ourselves, because we can't invent a rocket for every problem, right? It is inventing the life and investing the life's experience into the future for productive purpose. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you do not, So if you do not say, okay, I have made a mistake as per me, and when I do not accept that mistake, I'm that rock, I will not move, I'm stuck. The moment I accept the mistake, there is a learning. The moment I think about what the other person is saying and look at a perspective, that is a learning, right? And joint families, again, there were support systems. Joint families were actually support systems. Something happens with my daughter. My daughter has made a mistake. It is not necessarily that I will only tell her. There is other relatives who were there. There were other brothers, siblings. Today, people are missing their siblings. There is only one son, one daughter, right? And mixing up of friends. So yes, life has become complex. I would say life has become isolated. And when we are becoming isolated, the thoughts come in. There is where this type of discussions, this type of gatherings, this type of friendships, or understanding what are the bigger things of life, the bigger parts of life, that is very important. In Bengali, there is a beautiful poem, Teler shishi bhanglo bole khokar opor rak karo, right? So you are getting angry because the child has broken the glass, right? The vessel of the for the oil. আর তোমরা যেসব ধেরে খোকা দেশটা ভেঙে ভাগ করো, and you all old folks, you have broken, you have divided the country, what happens to that, right? So smaller mistakes, let us not look into. I had this realization yesterday. I had a cup of tea and a biscuit yesterday outside, and this guy, a very young guy, he was very young guy, and that's why I had tea over there. He charged me 17 rupees. And I knew that the total cost is around 13 to 14 rupees. I asked him, why are you charging me so much? No, this is the charge which everyone pays. And I laughed at myself. I said, and I gave that 17 rupees to him, feeling very nice that this young boy is working here. Maybe he will earn money and buy his books, give it to his parents, right? And otherwise, what I could have done is 4 rupees extra. No, I will give you 13 rupees. But when I looked into the bigger picture of that child, I felt happy, accepted. So I think bigger picture, the framework, it's very important to look into. Thank you so much. Before we close the session, and I think it was helpful to you today, and it meant it brought in meaning, some meaning to this Sunday that we will be enjoying. Before we close the session, we will have a small round of mindfulness, a practice which is focusing on breath. 4-7-8. Inhale at the count of 4, hold at the count of 7, exhale at the count of 8. I will guide you for that. There's a train passing by. I will just mute myself and then start the guidance. Yes, Devashish, perfect. So inhale at the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wonderful. Be in silence for a moment. Have gratitude for this life. Have gratitude for everything that we have around us. Slowly open your eyes. Let the lights come in. Let everyone's life be lighted. And may we all of us light everyone's life. So thank you very much. We meet tomorrow for the morning session. At
Thank you.
7:15.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Om Shanti, and let today be the happiest day. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Have a great, wonderful session.
Thank you, Kapil. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Really.
Have a nice Sunday.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you, Shubhajit. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.